So, hello again. Thank you for being here. We'll have a panel now of about 1 hour, and that will have the revolution from the artist's perspective. So you heard about the revolution already. Now it's from the artist's perspective. The artists, the authors, are Carrie Reichardt from the UK and Igor Ponosov from Russia. These presentations will be followed by a question and answers session by Evan Pricco from the United States. I will just say some words about Carrie. She works between craft and activism with techniques of muralism, mosaic, and screen printing. Among many other things, she has been involved in community and public art projects for over 15 years, designing and consulting on large-scale mosaic murals in various locals and communities. Just for an example, she has produced a wall. She produced as well as designed and installed the art of recycling in Harold Hill Library, but also in Miravalle, one of the most deprived districts of Mexico City. So she has been a bit all over. Well, let's welcome Carrie, and then I will make a small presentation for Igor, and then Evan. Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Hi. Actually, my name is Carrie Reichardt, just so, but it doesn't matter. I want to talk about the power of art. When we're talking here all about power and revolution, I actually want to just talk about the power of art to transform people, places, to think about art, how valuable and important it is in making us who we are. So I can only do it from a very personal point of view, and so I'm going to talk about myself. This is me. I'm the youngest of 4. I come from quite a strange family. My father is not only a faith healer, but he's heavily into erotica and porn, so I'll let you work that out for yourselves. But I was never like someone who was like a really great artist, ever. No one ever thought I was gifted or talented, but I was just a child that liked to create. I always liked to make something. It was what I did all of my childhood. And I went and did a degree. I went to Leeds. I studied fine art sculpture. This was my degree show. It's called Pretty Woman, or You Must Be a Feminist. I called all my work in my degree show a quote that a tutor had told me. So this is back in the I graduated in 91, so when I was at college, it was just following on from all the very feminist art from America, really. So I was very much influenced by this style of work. I was obsessed with body casting. Generally, my art forms take an obsession. Whatever I'm interested in at that time, I will just do it all day long. I went to art college. I left art college and swore I would never do art again because I hated it. I went off to Central America, South America. I traveled for 6 months. I got introduced to cocaine. I came back. I had a nervous breakdown. In that time, that's strangely enough, when I got my art practice back, this was the work that I did. It actually says sometimes emotional pain is so preferable that sometimes emotional pain is so great that physical pain is preferable. And at this time, I really was extremely unwell. But the one thing I was able to do was to find a way to transfer that into art. So I made all this series of work. It was only ever exhibited twice, but because of this, I reached out to people who were self-harming. And this was back in '95, at a time when nobody talked about this area. So I was reaching out to Ashford Mental Hospital. I was talking to people. I was taking their text and I was transferring it onto this. And this work is extremely dark. But I wanted to show it to show you that my own journey through art, how it has saved me really from probably suicide and is a way that I've always dealt with my mental health. Actually, I married the person that was also exhibiting in this show. I agreed to it after one day, so it shows you I wasn't really very mentally well. He had a fish rotting and stinking out the gallery, but we got married. I had a child, and he suggested that I mosaiced because he did gardens. So he created this, and this is the first mosaic I ever did. It's the alchemical symbol for unity. It was supposed to represent the three of us, me, my husband, and my first child, Poppy. This mosaic lasted a lot longer than that relationship, which is one of the reasons I do like ceramics, is of their permanence. But this was the first mosaic I ever did, and as soon as I did it, I responded to craft. At that point in my life, I could see it's kind of, people talk about mindfulness, but craft is that mindfulness. Craft is going into a zone where you're lost in the detail and making stuff, and for me at this time, it was extremely important. So this is my first introduction to kind of craft-based work. This is the last project I did. This is on Acton, South Acton Estate, one of the largest gentrification regeneration programs that you can think of. And this is the Acton Tree of Life. It took over a year to make. And actually, it's all printed with the social, cultural, and community history of that area. It's even got all the street art that's been knocked down as these buildings are going. But how did I get to that? I'm extremely now, I believe, passionately in about printing up the people's history, putting it into community work, making public work that's as involved with the community as much as possible. And when I first started learning mosaics, one of the things I did is I went to Romania. I went to those orphanages that you may have read about in the early 2000s, where kids really were brutalized and tied up and so badly treated. And I went there and worked with these kids for about 2 years, 3 years. This is Serena. This is the first painting she ever did. And you can't really explain what it's like to be in a room of children and see when they mix red and yellow and it creates orange, and they didn't know that. They've never seen that. They've never worked with colour. These kids had done nothing but put dots in a row in textbooks for no reason whatsoever. But we went there and we bought paint and we bought colour, and over 3 years we worked with these children. And I want you to notice is that she had a number on her shirt, but as we went there and as we made this art, they started to get the film crews in, the mayor came. And the thing is it's the transformation of the power of art is such is that these children were viewed differently. They went from being seen as the special kids that were like less human to suddenly they were talented. They could draw, they could paint. The whole world wanted to know about it. And that's what I'm talking about when we talk about the power of art. Going in there, doing this small project, enabled a community to view these children in a different way. And afterwards, I really think that we made some difference in that area. But at the same time, the thing that really changed my life was that I picked up a big issue, and it said, could you befriend someone on death row? And I said I thought I could, so I started to write to a prisoner on death row. This is Luis Ramez, and this is probably what you think of when you think of death row. But this is the Luis that I knew. This is Luis Ramez, who had been in the army and everything. And over a period of 5 years, he became my best mate. And the thing is it was another thing that stopped me being depressed, because you can't be depressed when you're writing to someone who lives in a cell 6 foot by 9 foot, who's waiting to be killed, murdered by the state for a crime they haven't done. You know, it gives you some kind of thing to reflect on. And so at this time, when I started writing to him, I started to think, yeah, you know what, I'm going to mosaic my own house. I'm going to do it. So this is me. This is my friend Mark. We're mosaicing, we're putting some tiles on the front of my house. I started doing the garden. And in that time, this is my oldest. This is Poppy. This is my son, Rudy. And this is Roxy. So over those 5 years that I was writing to Lewis, he was my confidant. We were talking all about my friends and my family, and then I unveiled this. Funnily enough, my neighbour, when I unveiled this, said, "What on earth have you done? That looks like a 12-foot penis you've put on the front of your house." And I'm like, Mary, that's your dirty mind. That is a tiki love. That's a tiki totem pole. She said, "Oh, Carrie, it's got a scrotum and everything." Actually, what you can't see is it says, "Oh, come all ye faithful," around the all-seeing eye up there. So, yeah. But up until that point, I was like you, just doing decorative, funny stuff, being a bit, naughty. But I then got a letter. I got the letter that you hate to get, which says, "Your friend's going to be executed." So here I am. I went to see Lewis. This is the day before they executed Lewis. And Lewis was a writer. He'd had his poems published in poetry books in Spain. He was an amazing man. But he was executed in Texas. And I was really destroyed because it wasn't just my friend, but my sense of what's right and wrong. I was brought up to believe in law and order and justice and black and white ideas, and suddenly I realized that the state can kill you. The state can take a life. There's nothing you can do about it. It makes you feel extremely useless, like you can't do anything. It's so disempowering. So I decided that I would make a mosaic for him. I asked him to send me some in plastic or metal, if it was possible, and he sent me his own card. I mean, he shouldn't have been executed without that, and they don't make them anymore. But we decided, so 8 months later, when it should have been his 43rd birthday for summer solstice, we thought we'll have a great big unveiling of this. And this is what I unveiled. I mean, you can't see the detail because it's got all of his last statement in the tentacles. It's got quite revolutionary text in all of it. And this is Lewis's mother, who flew in along with his sister and his girlfriend, and they all came. And like I said, the detail, the devil's in the detail because it's all inlaid. And it really was like a labor of love. But it was also a way of me processing what was going on and finding a way to deal, because it's hard when you're dealing with things like death row. I was writing to like 5 prisoners at that time, and I was very immersed in a dark world. And at that time, I think it's when I realized that I could do, my work could be political, it could mean something. And I discovered Betsy Greer, who said, "Craftivism is a way of looking at life where creativity makes your voice stronger, your compassion deeper, and your quest for justice more infinite." And that resonated with me. I thought, well, that's what I'm doing, isn't it? And I got a commission to do the Tiki Truck. It was the first ever art car parade. It was based on the Houston art car parade. I submitted this design. I got accepted to do it. I got a team, because, by the way, you can't make huge mosaic houses and cars and elephants and whatever else I've mosaiced without having a team. And the great thing about craftivism is that when you're doing something with a purpose, people will join you and help you. And it's one of the most amazing things you can do, is to be with a group of people committed to making something creative for a reason. So these were all my friends. And this is the truck, and trust me, it is not easy to mosaic a truck. It's extremely hard. You have to do it in reverse. You have to stick. This took 3 months. This took people working around the clock at my house to make it. Nobody got paid. And then I got asked. This is my friend John Joe Amador as a child. He was in the cell next to Lewis. I'd become friends with his family, and his wife asked me if I would hold her hand and be there for his execution. And so suddenly I'm mosaicing a truck, I'm going to an execution. So I thought I'd make the truck something to do, combine the two things together. So I flew out to Texas. This is the sign that is opposite the prison in Livingston, Texas. It's kind of like, see the irony? They're worried about that, but they killed them. I mean, it's a really, really dark place. This is the hut that we were staying in. in Livingston. Again, it's not a place you want to go on holiday for. This is their swimming pool. I mean, you can see the type of place you're in. It's how can you relax there? And even when you go to the local pub, they've got like murderer. I mean, everything is death row. It really is quite a strange place to be. So this is me with Ash. I think this was the day before that he was executed. And this is his mother and his stepson outside when they executed him. I can tell you that he had the lethal injection, and I can tell you that it's not quick and it's not painless. I watched him die for 7.5 minutes, and if you think about like listening to 2 songs, that's how long it took. So if anyone ever tells you that it's quick and painless, they're lying, because I can testify. But the mad thing is that Texas is legally the only place, the only state in America that you can transport a dead body if you have your own body bag. The idea being you can take it from one morgue to another to save money. So we had this mad idea that we would go get him. And this is my friend Nick Reynolds. His father was actually Bruce Reynolds, the great train robber, but he's an expert in death masks. So he flew in. We got his body with the family. We picked him up within 5 minutes of him being executed, and we took him to the cabins in the woods where Nick was going to cast his head. So this is me and Nick. We're casting his head, and we cast his arm where the needle had gone in. And this was the death mask we made. And it looks like he has stubble, but actually they're goosebumps. He was so freshly dead that his skin was reacting to the plaster. I mean, it's nuts. But you have to remember that the last phone call I had with Ash, he said, "Oh my God, you came all this way for me. A death mask for me. That's usually bestowed on kings." He said, "Now I know I'm not trash. Now I know I'm somebody." So, it was extremely an amazing thing to be able to do. And back home, my friend, this is Mark. He's ATM. He's a street artist. He's done a couple of birds on the rock here in Norway, but I've been working with him for 20, 25 years. But back in England, he was busy finishing the Tiki Love Truck. And then 8 days later, I was back in England. I was driving through the streets of Manchester. There were 45,000 people at that event. And we had Ash on the top. And there he is. For me, that's like making a deity. Do you know what I mean? I went to the darkest place. I saw the darkest things that are imaginable. And I came back with art. I came back with something that would be, inspiring. And this is what we made. And Ash knew. Ash said, if I have to die, but I can do something to help people, then I will die if that's what it takes. And Ash was an artist himself. The one thing I've realized from writing to all these people on death row is that art and culture gives us our humanity. It gives us our sanity. For Ash, they don't have paints anymore in Texas. So he had pencils. He ground them all down. He made a palette. That toothbrush, that his brush is his human hair. And this is the last painting that Ash ever did, called We Are the People. Okay. And so that truck ended up in the Victoria and Albert Museum, which I'm extremely proud of. It went to Australia. At first, it just went around all the festivals, but it ended up being in Disobedient Objects, a show. Because of that, the V&A let me install a piece. They let me do a ceramic intervention. Those who are Nuart people will know that that's Liam and Epiphany helping me, because I called in the right people to help. And we managed to put this up. It covers up the plaques either side where it talks about the old colonial past of Queen Victoria, and we put these panels in. I had steps on the V&A, and this is what it said: "History is a weapon. Nothing is inevitable. Everything is possible." And every one of these photos is a plaque. Somebody protesting. I managed to get extremely contentious stuff into this work purely because of the craft element of it. And this is my favorite quote: "Art is not a mirror to reflect the world, rather it is a hammer with which to shape it." And I do believe that. I do believe that art has that potential, and we have to see that potential, and we have to try and reclaim our streets, but we have to think about it as a collective thing where we allow people to come and help make art. Look, I love this. I even got myself in with a Metropolitan Peace badge. That's me. But finally, I would just like to say that I do think that art has a huge power. It has a power to help people. And I think that when we fight for our rights and we fight for housing and the NHS and we fight for our education, I think high on that list we should be fighting for our right to be arty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Igor, could you please approach Igor Ponosov? You're here, sorry. Thank you very much. We move to Igor now. He's currently living in Moscow. He works as an activist, artist, independent curator. Since '99, he was a graffiti artist in Kiev. And between 2005 and 2009, he published 3 books on street art in Russia. Also was the book of Art and the City in 2016. He founded the partisaning.org website as a platform for exchange among activists, artists, and urbanists. Please, Igor, it's your turn.
Yo. Hi. It's really hard to have a talk after this really good, impressive, emotional talk. I'm Igor. I'm an artist and also a researcher of urban art from Russia, and I have just a small presentation of my art works, not curatorial, not researcher, just a few things which I do. And it's not revolutionary directly, but just maybe some I don't know, try to reflect or react to reality. And I'm living in Moscow, and here I think it's my favorite city. It's crazy city, huge one, and it's I really like architecture which we have from Soviet era, and it's really impressive. And also, I think it's metro also most beautiful in the world, because it looks like a museum, and also some different mosaics from Revolution era. And for example, this is my favorite station, Mayakovskaya. It's from Russian poet Mayakovsky, because it's I like this station because on the top it's a really nice mosaic from Soviet artist Deineka, who did it in 30s. And in this city, really inspired me for doing something inside. Sometimes, like architecture, some beautiful things, but also Moscow metro. It's quite hard to use for rush hour, for example. It's because it's too many people there, and in Moscow it's around 20 millions. And I just 10 years ago I did this performance. It's I tried to make attention, and also try to use it some useless form in rush hour, and try to connect with people and try to feel between public and private space. And before I did some graffiti and kind of street art. It's which inspired from minimalism and avant-garde form. And I tried to make a red accent in the city. But when I did a Red Cube performance, I was also kind of accent in the city. And we have a lot of different types of buffing in the city. And this is spontaneous form, which I documenting for many, many years. And this nice colors sometimes, nice forms, and it's also, I was thinking about maybe it's new form of street art in Russia. And this form inspired me to do something useful kind of in the city. And 5 or 6 years ago, we organized a partisaning project. It's a website. We published a website and did some newspaper about urban art in Russia and generally, and also about activism, urban activism. And we started work with as group. We have this studio kind of sea container for prepare some objects for doing urban interventions. And this urban intervention is kind of useful because we try to improve city, improve infrastructure, because city is beautiful. It's it's good, nice Soviet architecture, nice modernist urban planning, but not so useful actually. And we tried to, around 7 years ago, we tried to make own bike infrastructure, and we used bike a lot and tried to make a map with safe path roads. And we did some marking in the city. So we used stencils and signs which we did by hand, and we tried to develop own bike infrastructure in the city. We also did some maps in the city, like metro maps. We tried to make a geolocation with map and integrate our bike infrastructure to the official map. And we also was thinking about pedestrian culture. We did some crosswalks illegally. I did zebra, and my friend put some signs. We tried to make attention for drivers, and government tried to react it, and sometimes it was buffed, and it looks like new crosswalks, for example, new style of crosswalks. But sometimes it's government tried to agree or with our urban interventions. And for example, these 2 screenshots from Russian news, where police came to check our illegal crosswalks, and he said it's illegal, but we need it, and we want to do it legally. And this picture, you can check our crosswalks. It was buffed, and government did an official one. So it's kind of success. Yeah, it's just some pictures which inspirations from the city. This normal food shop in Moscow, and this kind of typical for Russia, using this ugly vinyl banner material, and many owners just use it for shops, and it looks like a installation. And we also try to reuse it by abstract and absurd way. For example, this demonstration, we organized in Rostov-on-Don, south of Russia, and we just cut some parts in the city illegally, some parts of advertisement, and we did this kind of demonstration. This is clothes, bags, sales, just the phones or something like this, just to make react to to the urban reality and try to do something new from this kind of material. This is it's the same material, but it's a fake facade. This it's not advertising, but it's also vinyl banner. But government use it, and building owners use it for cover construction work usually. And sometimes it's this fake facade looks like a fake city or something like this. And I also tried to make something new from fake. This is a new architecture form from fake facade. Yeah, you can just check the picture where I cut some materials and just go back for check how it looks now. Yeah, in this material you can use it like a cape, clothes, and also use it like a tent, normal tent. It's kind of useful now. Yeah, in this picture in Stavanger, actually I like more absurd, different urban interventions, and I was thinking about it's good to do something with boat here because it's a really nice place, and I mean mountains are really inspired from nature too, and sea. And I was thinking about maybe something poetic but still absurd, but kind of useful. So I did a sailboat, which you can check somewhere in the sea twice per day, and you can check your ice because it's a kind of real ice testing chart. And we will have a special performance with doctor who tomorrow for the opening 7:30. You can check your ice by with professional. Yeah, it's just some pictures from me. I don't know how it's how the sound. Maybe it's not so revolutionary, not so emotional for sure, but I'm trying to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. I think you can remain because I'm going to call Evan. Evan is editor-in-chief of Just the Pokes. He can speak for himself a little bit more if he wants. And he's going to coordinate the questions and answers of both of you. Maybe we can join here and have a good chat.
I get to be on the revolution side. They put me on evolution yesterday. I have to say I'm kind of intimidated talking to both of you because I really respect both of your works, and so we're at a festival. So there, by the definition of a festival, there's a certain structure to work in, which is different than what you guys do. Normally, you guys kind of have established your own kind of universe of the way you want to create art, the interventions that you want to make. The interactions that you want to have with people. So in this idea of a festival, and Nuart is special because it's so well curated and the topics are so in connection with what you do. How do you prepare for something like a festival setting where you know people are going to be looking at your work kind of with the knowledge of like, I'm here for an art festival, I'm seeing things, and knowing that they're going to be seeing things in a certain way that's different than the way you normally interact with people and audience? Either of you can start.
I prepared?
Yeah, like how do you prepare for knowing that people are going to be seeing your work outside of kind of the normal way that you kind of intervene with the city?
Yeah, but yeah, actually it's quite hard to do something in the city without visit before. And I tried I tried to use online services for like a Google Street View or
say,
something like
Google
this.
Images? Yeah, okay.
Something, yeah, some research. Yeah, I'm trying to ask people who lives here about something. Yeah, I try to collect information from different sources. Yeah, and just I try to relax and try to feel environment too.
I've never done a kind of festival like this before, so I actually had a nervous breakdown leading up to this, thinking, what on earth am I doing? I basically just printed a load of tiles, filled up my suitcases, brought them over and hoped for the best. But I thought, well, I'll bring these ceramic stuff and I'll see what interventions I can do. But I'm running a workshop tomorrow, which with young people, and there I've just brought some tiles, and really I'm hoping to just facilitate them to try and do something. I mean, I have gone around places and worked, but not at festivals, but I have worked in places where groups of people come together to try and make something happen creatively. And I think it's, it's an amazing energy that's created when that happens.
Do either of you consider yourselves street artists? This kind of title that gets put onto this festival and kind of the movement that we're sort of talking about here, but because you guys are part of this festival as artists, do you consider yourself street artists? Is that even something that?
I've never really considered myself to be a street artist. But then I struggle with calling myself an artist at all. I mean, but no, I wouldn't have said, though I have put things on the street for years and years and years. I mean, I've painted, I've graffitied, I stuck things up, because it's just, I've always thought, well, it's there, it's space, use it, it's fantastic, but I never put my name to it because I'm too paranoid about getting caught.
Yeah, I'm not street artist too. I'm just artist. I like more urban space. It's good to get inspiration and also for doing something, because it's like Lego constructor for doing something. I mean, it's different elements you can combine and it's just to make something. But
I really like just the idea of disrupting the space, and I think craft is really interesting in that way, because we're kind of bombarded with stickers. We've been stickered to death and paintings and things, but I think there's something about craft that resonates in some way. When people see craft, it makes them think differently, because they do think, oh my God, someone's done all that cross-stitching. The amount of time and labour of love that's gone into it is kind of done with a way that whoever sees it will see it, respond to it, have some kind of like, oh my God, it creates a different response, hopefully. And it's so lovely to take something like that and put it out into, like, especially because I'm from London, we're in a very urban world.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier to me outside that you are trying to bring color into like this very gray city, London in particular. I think this idea of noticing the subtlety that you guys are doing with your work, and especially when you're doing stuff like you're doing the handmade crosswalks or the kind of subtle interventions that you're doing. What is the response to those kind of subtle projects that you're doing? When you do kind of come into a space and you're creating, or out into public space, and you're kind of changing it for people, do you have expectations of how people are going to respond? Because obviously it's a crosswalk, people are going to walk across it. But the idea that it's been hand done, like what are like the little things that, for just thinking about an audience, that you're actually thinking about when you're making the work or when it's on the street?
Yeah, in partisaning activity, we felt it's not so comfortable city if we want to change it. And we also try to collaborate with people. We actually, before this kind of use of urban interventions, we tried to collect some comments and recommendations from people. We installed some mailboxes. It looks like a normal mailbox, but yellow one, with sign for getting recommendation. And we tried to do it also with people. Yeah, it's not so. It's not just our message or something decorative. It's a really useful one.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the things I do is I put up fake blue plaques instead of being from the English heritage. They're from the English hedonists. And so I've put up loads of series of blue plaques, and what's so interesting about that is that the minute you put it up, because it looks like a blue plaque, people think it's a blue plaque. Like I mosaic the whole of my front of my house, gave myself a blue plaque, and people who'd walk by every day suddenly went, "Oh, who lives here?" It's like it has in it, and I think that's what's really interesting when you can take something like he's disrupted things and changed it subtly, how people will just accept it. I mean, I've put blue plaques up on brand new buildings that are slightly tweaked, they're just there. No one takes them down, and I mean, the response I've seen is, I would say that universally, most people just like to see art. They like to see colour. They like to see it. It's undeniable that people, that we live in these grey kind of places and they're bombarded with advertising. We're bombarded by who, and I think it is a question about who owns the street, who owns our environment. We should disrupt it as much as possible. But I've always, not 80% get a good response.
What's the example of a bad response?
Yesterday, when someone told me when I was installing the steps that I should go and do it in my own country. But that was followed by a group of kids with their teacher who liked it. But yeah. I spend a lot of time installing work, and I would say that 80 to 90% of the feedback is positive.
Do you have any sort of bad response to?
Yeah, for sure, but I don't know. Not remember about bad responses now.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a particular like aha moment for your art careers when you started to kind of do interventionist art that kind of was confidence building in a way?
I don't.
You're going to say you.
I don't see myself as even as an artist. I just think I create as a kind of a response. It's part of my compulsion to just create and to make, because it quietens the voices. The negative voices are quietened out by just creating. Having been here, it's funny. I feel like I want to. I am in therapy, so hopefully I'll get there. But I feel like the great thing about being here and seeing the influence of other artists is to think, oh yeah, that's really intellectual, that's really clever, I should think more about what I do, really, because it is like a response. The amount of work and effort that goes in, and I look at other people and think, no, really, maybe I should consider more what I do and think about it. But I don't have, I have aha moments like twice a day when I go, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
No.
No aha moments?
No. I have a paper, and sometimes I just have some ideas and just write, but it's not so aha. Maybe small one.
I just want to let you guys know that I do have in my notes aha, like in quotes, which I'm looking at. It's kind of silly. You kind of just mentioned it, but I definitely want to ask about the idea of collaborating, or the idea of seeing other artists that are kind of working in the same field, like what you get from that, because a lot of you are from all different parts of the world, so there's something to be gained from this kind of collaborative spirit.
I think something like this is extremely important, not just for art. I mean, I have done things where I've worked in South America on similar projects, but I think, that what happens is when you get groups of people coming together from all over the world, and that's with the volunteers, that's with everybody who's coming, it's a crossover of not just ideas, but of the only way you really know about other countries is either to travel to them or to spend time with people from them, because our media just pumps out this kind of, what's happening in Russia, what's happening in China. It's, they're pumping that out. And the only way that you find, oh, that's bullshit, actually we're all really same but different, is when you come together and you have these situations where I think they probably are extremely important for changing how street art is across the world, because it is these little pockets of things where it's quite anarchic here, let's face it. It's, you know, this isn't your normal street festival. This is one that's kind of there while this other one's going on, and there's all these interventions, and I think it's been amazing to be part of it, but I think it is really important what's going on here.
Agree. No, it's a really nice energy here. Yeah, I like it. It's good to work. Yeah, it's really productive environment, but it's also good to discuss about different type of context. Yeah.
How much time do we have? Oh, okay. Can we? Oh, so let's go to the audience questions, because I'm sure there's got to be somebody with a question, or not. Okay. Come on, one.
Stunned silence.
No, it is all the questions we had before they got gone. It's really fun and amazing to see this.
Well, I think maybe there's something to do with being here, that it allows quite anarchic things to happen, because, you know, from what I've seen, this is an amazing place to be that is allowing this to just happen. You know, and so I think, because when I came here with all this kind of revolutionary ceramics, I did think, well, why am I taking them to Norway, for God's sake? They're the last people who need them, probably. And it's in English, and I did question that, thinking, why am I putting something in English up? Is that rude? You know, because I think about all these things. And then I thought, well, the thing is this maybe in Norway, but we're dealing with a global stage here because of Instagram and because of social media. And you know, I'm extremely grateful that I'm allowed to come here and say this, and hopefully that will reach a global audience.
I guess before we leave this stage, because no one's going to ask a question.
Now they will.
Okay,
now they
yeah.
will.
Yeah, I just have a practical. Oh, sorry.
She goes first, then you. Okay.
No, I just had a practical question. How you make your tiles, all those images and words, and do you do the firing and all?
Yes, I'm very compulsive, obsessive. They're all done with something called transfers, decals. So it's a ceramic ink that's been screen printed, that's put on the tiles and then fired.
And then you carried all of those?
I had some sent, and I did carry it a lot in my suitcases.
That was an awkward moment at the airport, I'm sure.
Yes, always is.
I just wanted to say a comment to you, so I don't have so much voice like that. But I think that you bringing the tiles and street art is going to go is particularly important. I think we need to feel of the revolution because we are too content. You know, we are trying really to get there, but we are also so much stuck. So I love the fact that people come here because I think we really need it, so that you also can be part of that change.
Well, it's kind of that two-part thing, isn't it? You've welcomed us and we've come, and that's when these great things happen.
Anybody else? Yeah, one in the back.
When you put up art on the street illegally, so are you ever afraid of the authority or something?
Of the authority?
Is that what you said, authority?
Yes. For an anarchist, I'm terrified of authority, which is why I probably don't like it, because it scares me to death. You know, I do. But anyone who puts things out on the street will tell you that the more illegal it is, the higher you get when you get back home. There's, you know, there just is. You know, anyone will say that. But yeah, I'm really scared of authority and what might happen. But you know,
Igor?
Not scared about authority. I think it just it should be you should do it in the street and don't think about something negative or authority or something like this.
I always find if you're going to do anything, do it in broad daylight and do it with a high visor jacket. And if anyone asks you, just name someone, tell them it's the council. They'll never know. Just
Always act like you know what you're doing, I think is a good point. Yep.
So yeah, I have a question about the tiles and the working in the street. Do you have any reactions, like people stealing these tiles and selling them after? How do you feel with that? How you
I'm not that famous enough that people want to steal my tiles, to be honest. You can only break them. Yeah, they all go. But really, you smash them off when you remove them. So, I mean, and there's part of me that thinks if you want it that much, I don't really blame you. You know, I prefer they were on the street for everyone to see, but, you know, I'd kind of given them freely.
Is that it? What are you doing tomorrow, just so everybody knows?
Tomorrow, I'm at some place I can't remember, Metropolis, is it? And I'm running a workshop. We're going to try and make a community mosaic that's a celebration of gay pride. And yeah, so we'll be putting something up.
And Igor, your boat is circling the waters.
It's a performance twice per day, and today you can check the sailboat somewhere on the innovation dock around 6, and tomorrow around 1 hour. And also we have a tomorrow special event with Doctor at 7:30.
Thank you both for this. Thank you for sitting and listening.
Thank you. Thank you all. We have 5 minutes break, and we go to Baya Shehab. I hope I am pronouncing correctly the name. From Cairo, I know why the cage birds sing. So we have 5 to 10 minutes, short break. 15 minutes, yeah, we have? Okay, 15 minutes. So you can have a break. Thank you.